Welcome to our mini-series exploring the 18 maladaptive schemas. These schemas are deeply ingrained, long-lasting patterns. They influence how we view ourselves, others, the world around us. Think of them as emotional blueprints drawn up during our earliest years. Maladaptive schemas often form when our core emotional needs are not consistently met during childhood. Safety, stability, acceptance, love, connection. When these needs go unfulfilled through repeated, often painful experiences, we can develop unhelpful patterns. Those patterns follow us into adulthood, shaping our relationships and our sense of self. These patterns are not our fault. They are survival strategies we learned when we were young and vulnerable. They were the best way we knew to make sense of a world that felt confusing or unsafe. For example, if a child frequently experiences unpredictability from a caregiver, they might develop a schema that says the world is unstable and people cannot be trusted. These schemas operate automatically, often outside our conscious awareness. They feel like truths, not just beliefs. Understanding them is the first step to recognizing their influence and beginning the gentle work of changing them for the better. Our goal in this series is to shine a compassionate light on each schema one by one. By learning to identify them, we can start to understand why we react in certain ways and why we sometimes get stuck in painful emotional cycles. This knowledge gives us power. It allows us to separate our past experiences from our present reality. We can begin to challenge old stories that no longer serve us and start writing new ones. This journey is one of self-discovery and healing, and it begins with simply being curious about the patterns that shape our lives and our connections with others. This particular essay will focus on one of the most common and powerful schemas, the abandonment schema. The abandonment schema is, at its core, a pervasive and powerful fear that the people we love and depend on will leave us. It is the persistent belief that our important relationships are fragile and destined to end. People who live with this schema often carry a deep-seated expectation that others will ultimately prove to be unreliable, unstable, unavailable. This fear is not just about physical abandonment, like someone literally walking out the door forever. It also includes the fear of emotional abandonment, where partner, friend, family member might become distant, withdraw their love, be emotionally unavailable when needed the most. This schema creates a constant state of high alert within relationships. A person might feel a sense of impending doom, always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Even when a relationship is going well and there is no real evidence of a threat, the underlying fear can create a feeling of insecurity and anxiety. It can feel like you are standing on shaky ground, unable to fully relax and trust that the connection is stable. This feeling of being alone or on the cusp of being left can persist, even when surrounded by people who genuinely care, making it difficult to feel truly safe and secure in any attachment. The belief system of the abandonment schema whispers that you will be left for someone better. Cast aside circumstances will inevitably tear you and your loved one apart. It can be triggered by death, illness, simple everyday separations. So that's why awareness matters. The abandonment schema almost always traces its origins back to childhood experiences, where a child's fundamental need for a stable, secure connection with a caregiver was not reliably met. This can happen in many different ways, some obvious and some more subtle. The most direct cause is the physical departure of a parent, divorce, death, prolonged absences due to work, prolonged absences due to illness, other commitments. The child experiences a profound loss and learns that caregivers can disappear. However, the schema can also form when caregivers are physically present but emotionally inconsistent or unavailable. Imagine a parent who is very loving and attentive one moment, but becomes cold, withdrawn, or angry the next, with no predictable reason. A child in this environment learns that love and safety are conditional and can be taken away at any moment. They cannot develop a secure sense of trust. Similarly, If a parent is struggling with their own issues, depression, anxiety, addiction, they may be unable to provide the consistent emotional support a child needs, leading the child to feel emotionally abandoned and alone. Another common pathway for the development of this schema is growing up in an unstable environment. Frequent moves, changing caregivers, being sent to live with different relatives. For a child, these constant changes can make the world feel like a very unpredictable place where nothing and no one is permanent. Even a significant event like a parent's long hospitalization, the birth of a new sibling who requires all of the parent's attention, can trigger feelings of being left behind. The child's young mind interprets these events as a personal loss, internalizing the message that they are not important enough to keep their caregivers' consistent attention and presence. It is important to remember that these experiences are seen through the eyes of a child who is completely dependent on their caregivers. What might seem like a manageable situation to an adult can feel catastrophic to a child. For example, a parent who works long hours to provide for the family is doing something responsible, but the young child only experiences their repeated absence. In adulthood, the abandonment schema acts like a faulty alarm system in relationships, sounding a siren at the slightest hint of distance or separation. A common manifestation is clinginess and intense need for constant reassurance. They might text or call their partner frequently, not just to connect, but to soothe deep-seated anxiety that their partner has lost interest or disappeared. They may ask, "Do you still love me? Are we okay?" seeking verbal confirmation repeatedly. This constant need for validation can be exhausting for both partners. Another presentation is intense jealousy and suspicion, misinterpreting innocent actions as signs of betrayal. Partner talks to someone else at a party or receives a text from an unknown number. The schema jumps to the worst case. They are going to leave me for someone else. This leads to controlling behaviors, checking their partner's phone, monitoring social media, questioning whereabouts. These actions come from a desperate attempt to prevent abandonment. Ironically, others do the opposite of clinging. They push people away, sabotage relationships as they get serious, a protective but self-defeating strategy. The thought, "I will leave them before they leave me." Ending the relationship preserves a sense of control. They might pick fights, create emotional distance, find flaws to justify breaking things off, ensuring the prediction of failure repeats. The emotional experience is a roller coaster. Small disagreements trigger panic, sadness, anger. A partner's short trip can feel like a breakup. Even in stable relationships, there's persistent loneliness or a sense something's wrong. It's difficult to fully trust the permanence of the connection. This turmoil blocks simple joy and peace. Recognizing the abandonment schema in yourself begins with noticing the patterns in your feelings and behaviors within relationships. A key sign is an excessive fear of being left, which can feel like a constant low-grade hum of anxiety that spikes during moments of separation or conflict. You might also notice a powerful need for constant contact and reassurance from your partner or close friends. This can look like feeling panicked if a text goes unanswered for too long, or needing to hear "I love you" multiple times a day to feel secure. Another sign is a tendency toward jealousy or monitoring a partner's actions, driven by a deep fear of being replaced. Beyond these behaviors, there are common coping styles people adopt. One style is clinging. This can involve sacrificing your own needs or becoming overly dependent on one person for your happiness and sense of self-worth. The opposite coping style is avoidance, where you intentionally keep emotional distance from others. You might avoid commitment, keep relationships superficial, or end things prematurely to prevent the possibility of getting hurt. A third style involves testing the relationship, where you might subconsciously create drama or push your partner away just to see if they will fight to stay. These coping strategies might provide temporary relief from anxiety, but in the long run, they often damage the very relationships you're trying to protect. Clinging can feel suffocating to a partner, while avoidance can create distance and conflict that ultimately leads to a breakup. This painful outcome then reinforces the original schema belief. See? I knew they would leave. This cycle can leave you feeling trapped, hopeless, and more alone than ever. The first step toward breaking this cycle is to gently and non-judgmentally acknowledge that this pattern exists and that it is a learned response to past pain, not a reflection of your worth. The good news is that healing is absolutely possible. Therapy can be incredibly helpful, particularly approaches like Schema Therapy, which is designed specifically to address these deep-seated patterns. A therapist can provide a safe relationship in which to explore these fears and learn new, healthier ways of connecting with others. You can learn to soothe your own anxiety, challenge the catastrophic thoughts, and slowly build trust that love can be stable and reliable. With time and support, you can learn to feel secure, not just in your relationships, but within yourself. Understanding this pattern is the crucial first step toward breaking free from its repetitive and heart-wrenching cycle of fear and loss, and learning to build trust in oneself and others. This knowledge gives us power. This is where we begin